Hello everyone, this is your friend Naruto Fix, and we are back with another epic What If Naruto fanfic. Which is, what if Naruto was heartbroken and Ino getting fell in love with Naruto and comforted him, part 1. If you love Naruto fanfics, then don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the journey with me. So, let's start the fanfic. The Hidden Leaf Village was alive with its usual energy, shinobi moving through the streets, merchants calling out their wares, and children laughing as they ran past. But for one boy, the noise of the village felt strangely distant, like an echo bouncing in the hollow of his chest. Naruto Uzumaki sat alone on the stone bench near the Hokage monument, his eyes fixed on the horizon where the sun was slowly setting. Normally, Naruto was the one who brightened the world around him, his loud voice, his stubborn optimism, his unshakable will. But tonight, there was no smile on his face. His heart was broken. For months, Naruto had poured his feelings into someone he admired deeply. He believed that after everything he endured, the loneliness, the battles, the pain, maybe he finally found someone who saw him for who he truly was. He dreamed of love, of being accepted, of not being left behind anymore. But reality was cruel. The one he loved had chosen someone else, and Naruto was left behind once again, his heart heavy with the same emptiness he had known as a child. Why does it always end like this? He whispered to himself, his hands clenching into fists. Am I really not good enough? The wind carried his words away, but someone nearby heard them. From behind a tree, Ino Yamanaka paused. She had been passing by when she noticed him sitting there. At first, she thought of simply leaving him alone. Naruto wasn't exactly the type you'd expect to be so quiet and broken. But hearing his voice, filled with pain, something stirred in her chest. Ino knew what heartbreak felt like. She had once cried over Sasuke, the same boy many girls in the academy admired. She had known rejection, the sting of not being chosen, and she recognized the look in Naruto's eyes, the look of someone who gave their whole heart, only to have it crushed. For a moment, she hesitated. Should I even say anything? He probably wants to be alone, but her heart wouldn't let her walk away. Slowly, she stepped forward. Hey, Naruto, Ino said softly, her voice lacking its usual playful sharpness. Naruto turned, surprised. He tried to force a smile, but it faded almost instantly. Oh, Ino, what are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, she replied, crossing her arms, though her tone was gentler than usual. You look like you've been hit harder than Shikamaru during training. What's going on? Naruto looked away. It's nothing, I'll be fine. But Ino wasn't convinced. She walked over and sat down beside him, their shoulders almost touching. You're a terrible liar, you know that. You always act like you're fine, but your eyes say everything. For a long silence, Naruto just stared at the ground. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he admitted. She doesn't love me, she chose someone else. The words felt like knives leaving his throat, and Ino could almost feel the weight behind them. Ino's heart softened. Without thinking, she placed a hand gently on his arm. I'm sorry, Naruto, I really am. I know how much that must hurt. Her touch startled him at first, but strangely, it didn't feel unwelcome. It was warm, comforting in a way he hadn't expected. Naruto gave a bitter chuckle. You don't have to pity me, Ino. I'm used to it, being left behind, being the one no one chooses, it's just how it's always been. But Ino shook her head firmly, her blue eyes staring into his with unusual seriousness. Don't you dare say that. You're not someone to be pitied, Naruto. You're stronger than anyone I know. You're stubborn, annoying, loud, sure, but you're also the guy who never gives up, who protects everyone even when they don't deserve it. If someone can't see that, then it's their loss, not yours. Naruto blinked, stunned. He had expected mockery or empty words, but instead he found honesty and warmth. Ino, he murmured, unsure of what to say. Ino smiled faintly, though her own heart was beating faster than she realized. She had always admired his determination, his never-ending energy. But sitting here now, seeing him vulnerable, she realized something else. Naruto wasn't just the loud prankster or the future Hokage. He was a boy with a heart so big that when it broke, it shattered completely. And in that moment, she wanted nothing more than to help him piece it back together. "You don't have to go through this alone, Naruto," she said softly. "If you need someone, I'll be here. I mean it." For the first time that evening, Naruto felt the crushing weight in his chest ease, even if only slightly. He looked at Ino, really looked at her, and saw the sincerity in her eyes. And for the first time since his heartbreak, he didn't feel completely alone. 9:28, 4:25 p.m, Vivavat, the silence between them stretched, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It was calm, almost soothing. Naruto glanced at Ino again, noticing how the soft glow of the street lamps lit up her hair, making it shine like gold. She looked different tonight. Not the confident, sometimes bossy kunoiki he always knew, but someone who understood pain, someone who chose to sit beside him when everyone else PT walking past. "You really mean that?" Naruto asked quietly, as though he was afraid her words would vanish if he believed in them too much. Ino gave him a small smile and nudged his shoulder playfully. "Of course I mean it, Barker. I'm not the type to say things I don't believe in. You think I'd waste my time sitting here if I didn't care?" Naruto chuckled softly, the sound weak but real. "Hey, I guess not." Quote, for a while, they just sat together, watching the stars begin to peek through the night sky. The village noise grew faint as the world around them quieted. Naruto's heart still ached, but Ino's presence was like a bandage over a wound, not healing it instantly, but stopping it from bleeding further. "Ah," Ino tilted her head, watching him closely. "You know, I used to think you were just this loud, goofy guy who never shut up. Always chasing after Sakura, always causing trouble. But, seeing you now, it's different." Quote, "Different how?" Naruto asked, raising an eyebrow. She looked up at the stars instead of at him. "Different in a way that makes me realize, you've been carrying so much more than you let people see. You hide it with that big grin, but deep down, you feel things deeply, don't you?" Naruto was quiet for a moment, then gave a half smile. "Guess I'm not that good at hiding after all." Ino shook her head. "No, you're just human. And there's nothing wrong with that." Her words struck him harder than he expected. For years, Naruto had been called a monster, a nuisance, a burden. Very few ever reminded him that he was simply human. Hearing it now, from Ino of all people, made his chest tighten in a different way, warm, not cold. Suddenly, his stomach growled loudly, breaking the seriousness of the moment. Naruto's eyes widened. "TCH, damn it, not now." Quote, Ino burst out laughing, her hand covering her mouth. "PFFT, Naruto. Even in your saddest moment, you still manage to be you." He scratched the back of his head sheepishly, embarrassed. "Hee, guess I can't help it." Quote, Ino stood up, brushing off her skirt. "Come on, let's get you some ramen." "My treat." Naruto blinked. "Wait, you're buying me ramen?" "Don't act so shocked," she teased, pulling him up by the wrist. "Consider it a mission. Operation. Cheer up Naruto Uzumaki." He stared at her hand holding his wrist, the warmth of her touch lingering longer than it should. For a moment, he wanted to pull away, worried about what it meant, but instead, he let her lead him. They walked together through the quiet streets of Konoha, the cool night air brushing past them. Ichiraku Ramen wasn't crowded this late, Satsuki welcomed them warmly. Naruto's usual order was placed, but Ino surprised him by ordering the same. As they sat side by side, waiting, Naruto glanced at her. "You don't usually eat ramen, do you?" Ino shrugged with a smirk. "Not really, but I figured, if I'm gonna cheer you up, I should at least do it your way." Quote, something inside Naruto stirred at those words. No one had ever gone out of their way to do things his way before. The ramen arrived, steaming and fragrant. Naruto picked up his chopsticks eagerly, and before he knew it, the first mouthful made him smile for real this time. "Man, this is the best. Ramen really does fix everything." Ino watched him eat, her heart softening even more. She never expected to see Naruto like this, vulnerable one moment, childishly happy the next. Somehow, it made her want to protect him, to be the one who kept that smile on his face. After they finished, they walked out into the night again. The moon hung high, painting the village in silver light. Ino slowed her steps, glancing at Naruto. You know, Naruto, heartbreak hurts. It makes you think you're not good enough. But, one day, someone's going to see you for exactly who you are, and they won't let you go. And when that happens, you'll forget this pain. Naruto looked at her, the words sinking deep. Do you really think so? Ino nodded firmly, her eyes locking with his. I don't just think so. I know so. Quote, for a moment, time seemed to stop. The wind was gentle, the world quiet, and all Naruto could see was the sincerity in her eyes. Something inside him shifted, a tiny spark, fragile and new, but warm. Maybe he wasn't as alone as he thought. As they reached the edge of the village street, Ino stretched her arms and yawned. All right, I should head back. My dad's gonna wonder where I am. Naruto scratched his cheek awkwardly. Yeah, I should get some sleep too. She hesitated, then gave him a gentle smile. Naruto, remember what I said, okay? You're not alone. Not anymore. And with that, she turned and walked away, her golden hair swaying in the moonlight. Naruto stood there, watching her go, his heart still broken, but for the first time, he felt something new blooming beneath the cracks. Hope. 9:28, 4:26 p.m, Vivavit. Naruto didn't move for a while after Ino left. He just stood there under the moonlight, her words replaying in his mind like an echo. You're not alone. Not anymore. Those words felt strange on his tongue, almost unreal. For so long, loneliness had been his shadow, following him everywhere. Even after becoming a hero to the village, there were still moments, quiet ones, like tonight, when the old emptiness returned and swallowed him whole. But Ino's voice had cut through it, reaching a place even Naruto hadn't known was waiting to be healed. The next day, Naruto tried to go about things as usual. He trained harder than normal, throwing kunai at targets until his arms ached, as if punishing himself could erase the ache in his chest. His teammates noticed something was off, but no one said much. Naruto, after all, was always quick to cover his pain with laughter. But Ino noticed. When she spotted him later that afternoon, sitting near the training grounds with his head tilted back against a tree, his eyes closed in exhaustion, something tugged at her heart again. Without hesitation, she approached, holding a small paper bag in her hand. Oi, Uzumaki, she called out. Naruto opened one eye and blinked. Ino, what's up? She tossed the bag into his lap. You skipped lunch again, didn't you? I got extra dumplings from the market. Don't waste them. Naruto sat up, surprised. You got these for me? Ino rolled her eyes dramatically. Don't make it weird. I just didn't feel like eating them all myself. But secretly, she had bought them with him in mind. Naruto stared at the bag, then back at her. Slowly, a smile crept across his face, small, but real. Thanks, Ino, really. He bit into one of the dumplings, the warmth filling not just his stomach but something deeper inside him. The simple act of her caring, of noticing he wasn't okay, meant more than she could imagine. They sat together under the shade of the tree, the breeze rustling the leaves above them. Naruto didn't talk much, and that in itself was unusual. But Ino didn't push him. She just stayed, letting the silence be comfortable instead of empty. Finally, Naruto spoke, his voice quiet. You know, last night, I thought I'd never be able to smile again. But then you showed up. And somehow, it didn't feel so bad anymore. Ino's heart skipped a beat. She turned her head quickly, pretending to focus on a flower growing nearby so he wouldn't see the faint blush on her cheeks. Well, someone had to stop you from sulking all night. You'd probably still be sitting there if I hadn't dragged you out for ramen. Naruto laughed softly, and it was the first time it sounded genuine since his heartbreak. Yeah, you're probably right. As the day drifted on, they found themselves walking through the village together again. Ino pointed out little things she liked, the new flowers outside her family's shop, the way Shikamaru always found excuses to avoid chores, the bright energy of the kids running down the street. Naruto listened quietly, finding her voice oddly soothing. At one point, Ino stopped by a small flower stall and picked up a pale blue blossom. She held it out to Naruto. Here, do you know what this flower means? Quote, Naruto scratched his head. Nope, it means hope, she explained, pressing it into his hand. You might need it more than me right now. Naruto stared at the flower resting in his palm. For a long moment, he didn't say anything. Then, his throat tightened, and he whispered, "Thanks, Ino." His voice was shaky, but it wasn't from sadness, it was from something else. Something warmer, something new. That night, as Naruto lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the flower rested on his nightstand. He thought about the girl with golden hair and sharp blue eyes who had sat with him when no one else did, who fed him when he was too tired to care for himself, who gave him words he didn't know he needed. Maybe his heart was still broken. Maybe the pain hadn't gone away. But for the first time, Naruto believed it might not last forever. And the reason was Ino. 9:28, 4:29 p.m, Vivavat, the night was quiet, the streets of Konoha empty as lanterns flickered against the soft breeze. Naruto lay in bed, staring at the flower Ino had given him. His fingers brushed the delicate petals, and for once, his thoughts weren't filled only with rejection and pain. Instead, he found himself remembering the sound of Ino's laughter, the warmth of her hand when she pulled him along, the seriousness in her eyes when she said, "You're not alone." He smiled faintly. Ino, huh? Never thought she'd be the one to. His voice trailed off as sleep finally pulled him under. The next morning, Naruto's routine felt different. He still woke up early, still ate his usual breakfast, still went to the training grounds. But something lingered inside him, like a flicker of light after a long night. He couldn't ignore it, and that flicker had golden hair and a sharp tongue. As he finished training, sweat dripping down his forehead, a familiar voice called out. "Oi, Naruto, you really don't take breaks, do you?" Naruto turned, surprised, and grinned despite himself. "Ino, what are you doing here?" She smirked, carrying a small basket in her hand. "Bringing supplies. I figured you'd push yourself too hard again, so I brought water and some rice balls. Don't say I never do anything nice." Quote, Naruto blinked at her, stunned. "You really came all the way out here for me?" Ino raised an eyebrow. "Don't sound so shocked, Barker. I told you, didn't I? You're not alone." Naruto's chest tightened, and for a moment, he couldn't find the right words. He just took the bottle of water, drinking it quickly before sighing in relief. "Man, you're a lifesaver. Thanks, Ino." They sat together under the trees, sharing food while the sun climbed higher. Naruto found himself opening up in ways he hadn't expected. He told her about how he felt invisible as a kid, how he chased after acknowledgement with pranks and loud laughter, how being left behind by someone he loved reopened every old scar. Ino listened quietly, her expression softer than usual. She didn't interrupt, didn't tease, she simply let him speak, her presence steady and comforting. When he finally fell silent, she placed a hand over his. "Naruto, I don't think you realize it, but you've already changed so many lives. You're not invisible, you're unforgettable, and the pain you feel, it only proves how much your heart is capable of loving." Naruto stared at her, his throat tight. No one had ever said something like that to him before. "Ino, why are you being so nice to me?" he asked quietly. For a moment, Ino hesitated. The truth was, even she didn't fully understand it yet. But she knew one thing, seeing Naruto broken hurt her in a way she hadn't expected. And the idea of him healing without her by his side felt wrong. So she smiled gently. "Because someone has to remind you of your worth. And maybe I just care more than I realized." The words lingered in the air, heavier than either of them expected. Naruto blinked, stunned, while Ino quickly stood up, brushing off her skirt. Anyway, don't overdo it with training, okay? I don't want to drag your sorry self to the hospital." Naruto laughed weakly. "Hey, alright. Thanks, Ino, really." As she walked away, her golden hair swaying in the breeze, Naruto's heart thudded strangely in his chest. He touched the spot on his hand where hers had rested, feeling warmth even though she was gone. Later that evening, when Naruto passed by the Yamanaka flower shop, he slowed his steps. Through the window, he saw Ino arranging flowers with practiced ease, her expression focused yet calm. She looked peaceful, surrounded by colors and scents. For the first time, Naruto realized how beautiful she truly was, not just on the outside, but in the way she brought life into the world around her. He lingered a moment longer before walking away, his lips tugging into a soft smile. Maybe heartbreak wasn't the end. Maybe it was the beginning of something he never expected. And Ino Yamanaka might just be the reason his broken heart could heal. 9:28, 4:31 p.m. Vivavat. Naruto woke up earlier than usual the next morning, sunlight spilling through his window as the village Owly stirred to life. The flower that Ino had given him was still resting on the small wooden table beside his bed. It had not wilted yet, and its soft blue petals looked almost as if they carried the glow of the morning itself. He sat up slowly, running his hand through his spiky blonde hair, staring at the flower with a strange mix of confusion and warmth. Naruto had never cared much for flowers, he always thought they were fragile things, beautiful but fleeting. But now, holding this one in his hand, he couldn't help but think about the girl who had given it to him. Ino's voice echoed in his mind, calm yet firm, "You might need it more than me right now." He sighed, swinging his legs over the side of the bed. "Tch, Ino," he muttered, though there was no annoyance in his tone. In fact, there was something almost comforting about the way her name left his lips. It had been only 2 nights since she had sat with him during his lowest moment, but the memory felt strangely permanent, like a scar that didn't hurt but reminded him of survival. As he walked through the streets of Konoha later that morning, villagers waved and greeted him. The children ran past, calling him Big Brother Naruto, smiling brightly at him. Normally, those greetings filled his heart with joy, but today he only nodded absently, still carrying the heaviness of his heartbreak. Yet somewhere deep inside, the presence of that flower, and the thought of Ino's sincerity, gave him enough strength to return their smiles. At the training grounds, Naruto threw himself into practice with his usual reckless determination. Shadow clones filled the area, sparring with each other, kunai clashing against wooden targets. Sweat dripped down his face, his chest heaving, but no matter how many punches he threw or how many clones he summoned, the image of the one he had loved, walking away with someone else, kept flashing before his eyes. His fists trembled as he struck another clone, dispersing it into smoke. "Why wasn't I enough?" he muttered, his voice cracking under the strain. "Because sometimes people are blind, idiot," a voice said from behind him. Naruto froze, startled, before turning around. Standing there, arms crossed and smirk tugging at her lips, was Ino Yamanaka. She was wearing her usual training outfit, her long blonde ponytail swaying in the breeze. But her eyes, instead of sharp amusement, carried a softer look, concern carefully hidden behind playful words. "Ino, what are you doing here?" Naruto asked, trying to catch his breath. She walked over, placing a hand on her hip. "What, you think you're the only one allowed to train here? Or maybe I just came to make sure you didn't break yourself again. Judging by the way you're breathing, I was right." Naruto rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed. "Hey, I'm fine. I just needed to push myself." Ino's gaze softened. She stepped closer, handing him a small towel she had been carrying. "You don't have to push yourself until you collapse, you know. Training's important, but so is knowing when to stop. Sometimes, you've got to give yourself a break." Naruto took the towel, hesitating before wiping his face. He looked at her, truly looked at her, and for a moment he wondered why she kept showing up. He had known Ino since they were kids, but they had never been particularly close. She was loud, confident, and always chasing after Sasuke back then, while he had been the class clown chasing after Sakura. Yet here she was now, when no one else came, standing beside him without being asked. "Ino," he began, his voice uncertain, "why are you really here? You don't usually, we're not exactly friends." She finished for him, raising an eyebrow. "Maybe not before, but maybe we should be now. Or, maybe I just don't like seeing you like this, Naruto. You're always the idiot who carries everyone else. Someone has to carry you once in a while." Quote. Naruto blinked, stunned by her honesty. His chest tightened again, but this time not from pain. It was something else, something warm, something dangerous, something he didn't quite understand yet. He smiled faintly, trying to cover his confusion. Hey, thanks, Ino. Guess I owe you one. You owe me more than one, she replied with a smirk, though her eyes lingered on him a moment longer than she intended. They ended up training together that day. At first, Ino kept her distance, practicing her own techniques while Naruto worked on his clones. But soon enough, she found herself joining him in sparring, testing his stamina, forcing him to dodge and counter instead of drowning in his own thoughts. Their movements became a rhythm: punch, block, dodge, laugh, and for the first time in days, Naruto felt alive again. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the two of them collapsed side by side on the grass, panting heavily. Naruto stared up at the clouds, his chest rising and falling, while Ino lay with her arms folded behind her head, her ponytail spread across the grass. Not bad, Uzumaki, she said between breaths. Maybe you're not completely hopeless after all. Quote. Naruto chuckled, his eyes still fixed on the sky. Coming from you, I'll take that as a compliment. For a while, they lay there in comfortable silence, listening to the rustle of leaves and the distant sounds of the village. Then, without warning, Naruto turned his head to look at her. Ino, do you ever feel like no matter how hard you try, it's never enough? The question caught her off guard. She turned her head too, meeting his gaze. His eyes weren't loud or cheerful like they usually were, they were raw, vulnerable, filled with questions he was too scared to ask anyone else. Yes, she admitted softly, surprising even herself. I used to think if I looked perfect, if I acted confident, if I proved myself as a kunoichi, then maybe people would notice me. But, sometimes, no matter what you do, people just don't see you the way you want them to. It hurts, but that doesn't mean you're not enough. It just means, they weren't the right ones to see you. Quote. Naruto stared at her, his heart thumping in his chest. Slowly, a small smile curved his lips. You're not what I expected, Ino. She smirked faintly, though her cheeks warmed. What, did you think I was all talk and no depth? I've got layers, Naruto. You just never bothered to look before. They both laughed softly, and for the first time since his heartbreak, the laughter didn't feel forced. As night fell, Ino stood, brushing off her clothes. Come on, let's grab food before I head home. I'm starving. Naruto hesitated before standing too. Again, you sure you're not just using me as an excuse to eat more ramen? Maybe I am, she teased, walking ahead. But maybe I just don't want you to eat alone tonight. Naruto's smile lingered as he followed her. And though his heart was still healing, with every step beside Ino, it felt a little less broken. 9:28, 4:32 p.m, Vivavat. The streets of Konoha glowed under the warm lantern light as Naruto and Ino made their way toward Ichiraku Ramen. The village felt quieter at night, calmer than during the day, when shinobi rushed about and children played in the alleys. Naruto shoved his hands into his pockets, his gaze wandering toward the stars above, while Ino walked beside him with an ease that surprised them both. She glanced at him out of the corner of her eye. His usual grin was missing, replaced with something softer, quieter. She knew he was still hurting inside, but she also knew her presence was making a difference. That thought made her chest feel oddly light. At Ichiraku, Chuki greeted them warmly, setting down steaming bowls of ramen within minutes. Naruto's eyes lit up at the sight of his favorite dish, and for the first time in days, Ino saw the real smile she had been waiting for. He dug in immediately, slurping the noodles noisily, and Ino laughed, shaking her head. You really don't change, do you? She teased, picking up her own chopsticks more gracefully. Naruto paused, broth dripping from his lips. Hey, ramen's ramen. Can't waste time being fancy when it's this good. Quote. Ino rolled her eyes but couldn't hide her smile. Watching him eat with such childlike joy after everything he'd been through made her feel something she hadn't expected, a warmth that spread through her like the broth she was sipping. They finished their meal, stepping back out into the cool night air. For a moment, neither spoke, just walking slowly through the empty streets. Finally, Naruto broke the silence. You know, I didn't think anyone would notice how I felt. I thought I'd have to deal with it alone, like always. But then you showed up, and it's different. Ino stopped, turning to face him fully. Her eyes, usually sharp and mischievous, were now steady and sincere. That's because you don't have to carry everything by yourself, Naruto. You never did. You just never let anyone close enough to prove it. Naruto blinked, caught off guard by her words. He opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Instead, he just looked at her, really looked at her, and for a brief second, the ache in his chest wasn't so heavy. Ino smiled faintly, breaking the tension. Come on, let's get you home before you collapse. You've trained enough for one day. They reached his apartment, the night quiet except for the distant hum of crickets. Naruto hesitated at his door, scratching the back of his neck awkwardly. Thanks, Ino. For everything. I don't think I could have gotten through today without you. Ino tilted her head, her ponytail brushing her shoulder as she smiled. That's what friends are for. Remember, you're not alone anymore. Quote. Her words echoed in his chest like a promise. She waved, turning to leave, and Naruto watched her go until she disappeared down the street. That night, he lay awake longer than usual, staring at the ceiling. The flower was still on his nightstand, glowing faintly in the moonlight. He thought about Ino, her laughter, her stubbornness, her surprising kindness. His heart still hurt from the rejection, but something else was beginning to grow in its place. Something fragile, but real. The next few days passed with a rhythm Naruto hadn't expected. Ino seemed to appear at the right moments, sometimes with food, sometimes with a sarcastic comment that snapped him out of his thoughts, and sometimes with nothing but her presence, which was somehow enough. They trained together, sparred until they collapsed in the grass, and shared meals that stretched late into the evening. One afternoon, while sitting under the shade of a tree after training, Naruto found himself staring at her again. She was talking about her teammates, about how Shikamaru always found excuses to nap and how Choji was impossible to beat in an eating contest. Her hands moved as she spoke, her eyes lighting up with every detail. Naruto smiled softly, realizing something he hadn't before. Ino wasn't just a girl who liked flowers or cared about appearances. She was passionate, determined, and more caring than she let people see. And somehow, she had chosen to spend her time with him. Ino, he said suddenly, cutting into her story. She blinked, looking at him. What? Thanks, he said simply. His voice was quiet but sincere. Ino tilted her head, a faint blush creeping onto her cheeks. For what? For being here, he replied. For not letting me drown in my own head. Her lips parted as if to respond, but no words came. Instead, she just looked at him, her heart beating faster than it should. And in that silence, something unspoken passed between them. 9:28, 4:45 p.m., Vivavat, the sun dipped lower into the horizon, painting the skies in hues of orange and purple. Naruto and Ino still sat under the same tree, the grass cool beneath them. The training field, usually filled with shouts, laughter, and the clash of kunai, was quiet at this hour. Naruto leaned back against the trunk, his head tilted upward, eyes fixed on the darkening sky. For once, he wasn't thinking about his rejection. Instead, he was listening to Ino's voice, the way her words carried both sharpness and warmth. It was strange how someone he never thought about too much was now becoming the person he relied on most. Ino, meanwhile, stole quick glances at him. She had always known Naruto as the loud, reckless boy who never stopped talking about becoming Hokage. But this version of him, the quieter, more vulnerable side, made her feel protective in a way she hadn't expected. Her chest tightened as she saw him sigh softly, his expression unreadable. Oi, Naruto, she said suddenly, breaking the silence. He turned his head toward her. You know, you don't always have to smile, she said firmly. It's okay to be upset. It doesn't make you weak. Naruto blinked. For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. Then he chuckled softly, shaking his head. You sound like Iruka-sensei. He used to tell me the same thing, back when I was little. His voice grew quieter. But if I don't smile, who else will? People used to hate me, no one wanted to see me frown. They'd just call me a nuisance and move on. Ino's heart clenched at his words. Without thinking, she shifted closer, her hand brushing against his on the grass. The contact made Naruto's eyes widen slightly, but she didn't pull away. Then let me be the one who doesn't mind, she whispered. Her tone was so soft that even she barely recognized it. You don't have to pretend around me. For a long moment, Naruto just stared at her. The sincerity in her eyes was something he wasn't used to, something he didn't even know he had been craving. Slowly, almost hesitantly, he let his hand rest against hers, not gripping, just there. Neither of them spoke after that. The silence stretched on, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was heavy, filled with words neither dared to say yet. The next morning, Ino showed up at his door again, holding a small basket. Naruto opened the door, his hair messy and eyes still heavy with sleep. He blinked in confusion. Ino, what are you doing here this early? Quote. She smirked, pushing past him into the apartment. Someone has to make sure you don't starve yourself. Honestly, Naruto, instant ramen for breakfast. You're hopeless. Naruto groaned, rubbing the back of his neck. Hey, don't diss ramen. But, thanks, I guess. As she set food on the table, Naruto watched her move around his tiny kitchen like she belonged there. It was strange, but comforting. His apartment, usually so quiet and lonely, felt alive with her presence. They ate together, Naruto grinning despite himself as he teased her about how bossy she was. Ino shot back sarcastic remarks, but her eyes softened every time he laughed. She hadn't realized how much she wanted to see that smile return, this time, not the forced grin he gave the world, but the real O.N.E. After breakfast, they decided to walk through the village. People greeted Naruto cheerfully, but they also glanced at Ino with curious eyes. She noticed it, of course, but didn't let go of her casual closeness to him. If anything, she straightened her posture, daring anyone to comment. Naruto noticed it too. You don't care what people think, huh? He asked with a small smile. Ino glanced at him and shrugged. Why should I? Let them think whatever they want. I know what I'm doing. That answer stuck with him. For someone who had always cared so much about appearances, Ino's confidence around him felt different. Real. A few days later, their bond was tested during a small mission assigned to them along with Choji and Shikamaru. They were tasked with guarding a merchant's caravan traveling toward the Fire Country border. It wasn't supposed to be dangerous, but bandits often lurked near the roads. As expected, trouble came. Halfway through the journey, masked bandits ambushed them from the trees. Choji and Shikamaru handled most of the attackers, but a stray kunai came flying toward Naruto when he was distracted protecting the merchant. Watch out! Ino shouted. Without hesitation, she lunged forward, pushing him out of the way. The kunai grazed her arm instead, slicing through her sleeve and drawing blood. Naruto's eyes widened. Ino! Rage flared inside him, hot and uncontrollable. He leapt forward, his movements sharp and furious, knocking down the remaining bandits with a ferocity that left even Shikamaru raising an eyebrow. When the fight was over, Naruto rushed back to Ino, his hands shaking as he checked her arm. It's just a scratch, she said quickly, trying to wave it off. Calm down, you idiot. But Naruto didn't calm down. His voice was low, almost trembling. Don't you ever do that again. Don't you ever get hurt because of me. Ino froze at his words, her heart hammering in her chest. She had never heard Naruto sound like that, so raw, so desperate. She placed her uninjured hand gently on his, steadying him. Then don't give me a reason to, she whispered with a small, teasing smile, trying to lighten the moment. But her eyes softened. You're important, Naruto. Of course I'll protect you. Naruto's throat tightened. He wanted to say something, anything, but the words stuck. All he could do was nod, swallowing the emotions threatening to spill over. That night, when they returned to the village, Ino found herself standing outside his apartment once again. She didn't know why, maybe to make sure he was okay, maybe because she couldn't stop thinking about the way he had looked at her earlier. Naruto opened the door, surprised but not displeased. Ino. Again. She crossed her arms, smirking. Get used to it. Someone has to keep an eye on you. And though she masked it with playful arrogance, deep down, she knew the truth. Somewhere between comforting him and standing by his side, she had started falling for him. And judging by the way Naruto's eyes softened every time he looked at her, maybe, just maybe, he was starting to notice too. 9:28, 4:47 p.m, Vivavat. The quiet hum of the village at night was something Naruto had never really noticed before. Usually, he was too busy training, shouting about his dreams, or running around causing mischief to hear it. But now, with Ino sitting across from him on his small apartment floor, both sipping tea she had insisted on making, he finally noticed. The silence between them wasn't awkward, it was heavy with meaning. Ino's presence filled the gaps his loneliness used to occupy. Naruto shifted, staring down at his cup. You know, I used to think if I just worked harder, if I just proved myself, then maybe I'd be noticed by her. But I guess, he trailed off, his throat tightening. Ino set her cup down, her gaze firm. Naruto, stop measuring your worth through someone else's eyes. You're more than enough as you are. He blinked at her, caught off guard by her intensity. Easy for you to say. You've always had friends, a family, people who cared. Her chest tightened at the vulnerability in his voice. Slowly, she leaned forward, her hand brushing over his clenched fist. Maybe, but you have something I don't, Naruto. He frowned. Like what? Her lips curved into the faintest smile. That fire, that ridiculous, stubborn determination that never lets you give up. Do you have any idea how many people admire you for it? Even if they don't say it. Naruto stared at her, the words sinking deeper than he wanted to admit. No one had ever said it like that before. Not even Sakura. The days rolled on, and Ino's visits became routine. Sometimes she dragged him out for walks near the flower shop, other times she nagged him into eating something besides ramen. She never let him retreat into his loneliness, always pulling him back with her sharp words and surprising warmth. One morning, Ino appeared outside his apartment carrying a basket of fresh flowers. She set it on his table without explanation. What's this? Naruto asked, tilting his head. Flowers, Ino said flatly. I can see that, Naruto said, scratching the back of his neck. But, why? She smirked. Because your apartment looks like a cave. If you're going to mope around, at least do it somewhere that doesn't feel depressing. Quote. Naruto rolled his eyes but smiled faintly as he looked at the small blossoms brightening up his dull room. He didn't say it out loud, but the sight made his chest feel lighter. Their bond deepened further when they were sent on another mission together, this time just the two of them, escort. Tea duty for a noblewoman traveling to the outskirts. The path was long, and the woman spent most of her time inside her carriage, leaving Naruto and Ino walking side by side for hours. At first, they bantered to pass the time. Naruto teased her about being a bossy flower girl, while Ino mocked his messy hair and obsession with ramen. But eventually, their conversations grew quieter, more personal. Ino, Naruto said suddenly, his voice uncharacteristically soft. She replied, glancing at him. Why do you care so much? About me, I mean. I'm not exactly special to you, right? We weren't even that close before. Ino stopped walking, her expression serious. For a moment, Naruto thought she wouldn't answer. But then she spoke, her voice steady. Because I see you, Naruto. Not just the loudmouth or the troublemaker everyone else talks about. I see the boy who never gave up, who carried a loneliness no one else could understand. And maybe I don't want you to feel that way anymore. Naruto's steps faltered. The sincerity in her words shook him. For so long, he had fought to be acknowledged, to be seen. And now, standing on a quiet dirt path under the setting sun, Ino had given him exactly what he had always wanted. He swallowed hard, turning away to hide the sudden heat in his eyes. You're really something, Ino. She smirked faintly, though her cheeks burned. Took you long enough to notice. That night, When they camped under the stars, Naruto lay awake listening to the crackle of the fire. Ino slept a few feet away, her blanket pulled tight around her shoulders. The glow of the flames made her hair shine like gold, her expression peaceful in sleep. Naruto felt something stir in his chest, something he didn't understand. He thought about Sakura, about the way his heart had ached for so long. But now, that ache wasn't as sharp. It was being replaced by something else, something warm, fragile, and terrifying. He turned onto his back, staring at the stars. Why does she make me feel like this? When they returned to Konoha, Ino's parents noticed her strange new habit of spending more time outside the flower shop. Her father teased her lightly, but she brushed it off with practiced ease. Still, she couldn't deny the truth to herself. Naruto had become someone important to her. One evening, as they sat on the roof of his apartment, eating skewers they had bought from a street vendor, Ino finally let her guard slip. "Hey, Naruto," she said, her tone unusually hesitant. "Yeah?" he asked, chewing loudly. "Do you ever think, maybe heartbreak isn't the end? Maybe it's just the beginning of something better?" Naruto blinked, lowering his skewer. "Huh, what do you mean?" Ino met his gaze, her eyes shining under the moonlight. For a second, she wanted to tell him everything, to confess the feelings growing in her heart. But fear held her back. Instead, she smiled faintly and shook her head. "Forget it. Just something I was thinking about." Naruto tilted his head, confused but curious. He didn't push, though. Instead, he gave her that small, genuine smile that made her heart race. And in that moment, Ino knew. She was already in too deep. 9:28, 4:48 p.m., Vivavat. The next morning in Konoha began with golden sunlight spilling across the village rooftops. Birds chirped, shopkeepers opened their stalls, and shinobi began their early training. For Naruto, however, the day started with a knock on his door. When he opened it, he wasn't surprised to see Ino standing there, hands on her hips and an impatient look on her face. "Seriously, Naruto, you're still in your pajamas?" she scolded, stepping past him without waiting for permission. "I told you yesterday we were going for training early." Naruto yawned, scratching his messy hair. "Man, you're worse than Kakashi-sensei. He's late, but you're early." Ino tossed him a towel. "Get ready. No excuses." Minutes later, they were at the training grounds. The field was empty, the dew on the grass sparkling in the morning sun. Naruto stretched lazily, but Ino's sharp voice cut through the calm. "You're not going to sit around moping anymore, Naruto. I'll make sure of that." He looked at her, half annoyed, half grateful. "You really don't let up, do you?" Ino smirked. "Nope. Now stop talking and fight me." What began as simple sparring quickly turned into something more. Naruto's energy clashed with Ino's precision, her movements graceful, controlled, while his were wild and unpredictable. She dodged his punches with ease, countering with sharp kicks. At one point, Naruto lunged too aggressively, nearly tripping. Ino caught his wrist, twisting it skillfully before pushing him down onto the grass. "Gotcha," she said with a triumphant grin, leaning over him. Naruto blinked up at her, stunned. Her hair fell loose around her face, her eyes gleaming in the sunlight. For a brief second, his breath caught. He quickly looked away, his cheeks heating. "TCH, you just got lucky," he muttered, scrambling back to his feet. Ino smirked, but inside, her heart skipped a beat. She had felt the warmth of his hand in hers, the closeness when she leaned in. It left her more flustered than she wanted to admit. After training, they sat under a tree, both panting from exhaustion. Ino handed him a bottle of water she had brought. "You know," she said casually, "you're reckless, but you've gotten stronger. I can see why you're so determined to be Hokage someday." Naruto took a long sip before answering. "Hokage, huh, yeah, I still want that. Even if my heart feels like it's being crushed, that dream is still alive." Ino studied him quietly. His voice carried pain, but also unyielding resolve. That combination, strength and vulnerability, made her chest tighten. "You'll get there," she said firmly. "And when you do, I'll be able to say I knew the idiot before he was famous." Quote, Naruto laughed, the sound genuine this time. Idiot, huh, you're not wrong. The laughter faded into comfortable silence. Both of them leaned back against the tree trunk, the wind rustling the leaves above. For the first time in a long while, Naruto felt at peace. That evening, Ino invited him to her family's flower shop. Naruto was hesitant at first, nervous about what her parents would think, but Ino didn't give him a choice. Her mother greeted him warmly, offering tea, while her father raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Naruto awkwardly scratched his head, feeling out of place among the rows of colorful flowers. Ino noticed and nudged him. Relax, they don't bite. Besides, these flowers aren't just for decoration, they each have meaning. She guided him around, pointing at different blooms. This one represents courage. This one, healing. And this, she paused at a small white flower, plucking it gently. This means new beginnings. Naruto stared at the delicate petals in her hand. New beginnings, huh? Ino smiled softly and placed the flower in his palm. Yeah, even after heartbreak, there's always a chance to start over. For a moment, Naruto couldn't speak. He just looked at the flower, then at her. Something stirred inside him again, something he wasn't ready to name, but couldn't ignore. Over the next few weeks, their connection deepened further. Training together, sharing meals, even running small errands, Ino became a constant in Naruto's life. The emptiness left by heartbreak was slowly being filled, not by grand gestures, but by her steady presence. One rainy afternoon, Naruto invited her inside to escape the downpour. They sat by the window, watching raindrops slide down the glass. Naruto rested his chin on his hand. You ever wonder why life has to be so complicated? Why feelings hurt so much? Ino hugged her knees, gazing at the rain. Because if it was easy, we'd never learn. Pain teaches us what really matters. He turned to her, surprised. That's actually pretty wise. Quote, she smirked. Don't sound so shocked. I'm not just a pretty face, you know. Naruto chuckled, but his smile faded as he looked at her longer than he should have. The way the light from the window caught her eyes, the way her voice carried both strength and softness, it was different. It made his chest feel warm, and he didn't know what to do with that warmth. He quickly looked away, flustered. Yeah, I know. Ino felt her cheeks warm, but she pretended not to notice. Still, inside, her heart whispered the truth she hadn't spoken aloud yet, she was falling for him. 9:28, 4:49 p.m, Vivavat, Naruto had never realized how much his days could change just by someone being there. He had been used to loneliness for so long that when Ino started showing up regularly, it felt both strange and comforting. The empty silence of his apartment was slowly being replaced with her voice, her laughter, and her scoldings that oddly made him feel less hollow. One evening, after another long sparring session, they sat by the training grounds riverbank. The sun had set, and the moonlight shimmered on the surface of the water. Naruto dipped his hands into the stream, letting the cool water wash away the dirt from training. Ino sat a little farther, pulling wildflowers from the ground and weaving them absent-mindedly into a small chain. Naruto glanced at her. You're always messing with flowers, huh? She smiled without looking up. They calm me. Each flower has its own meaning. When I make something out of them, it's like giving shape to emotions. Quote, Naruto tilted his head, curious. And what's that one mean? He nodded toward the chain in her hands. Ino hesitated, then smirked lightly. It means patience. Patience, huh? Naruto chuckled, scratching his cheek. Guess I could use some of that. I've never been good at waiting. She finally looked at him, her eyes softening. Yeah, I know, but sometimes waiting leads to the best things. The gazes lingered on each other for a heartbeat longer than usual before Naruto quickly looked away, embarrassed. His heart beat faster, though he didn't fully understand why. A few days later, Ino dragged him to a small festival in the village. Lanterns lit up the streets, children ran about with sparklers, and the smell of food filled the air. Naruto was hesitant at first. He wasn't used to going to festivals with someone, but Ino didn't give him a choice. Stop sulking, she ordered, pulling his wrist toward the stalls. If you want to heal, you need to enjoy life too. Quote. Naruto laughed awkwardly but followed along. They played games, with Naruto failing hilariously at ring toss, and Ino teasing him mercilessly. She bought him a small trinket, an orange keychain shaped like a fox. When she handed it to him, Naruto blinked in surprise. This is, for me. Don't overthink it, she said quickly, though her cheeks warmed. Just a little reminder that someone's got your back. Naruto held the keychain tightly. It was such a small thing, but it made his chest feel strangely warm. Later, as fireworks exploded in the sky, Naruto found himself watching her instead of the lights above. Her eyes reflected the colors, her expression relaxed and happy. For a moment, the ache of heartbreak felt distant, replaced by something gentler. One night, after another shared dinner at Ichiraku, they walked home together. The streets were quiet, lanterns casting soft glows against the cobblestone. Naruto kicked a pebble idly, his voice hesitant. Ino, why me? You could spend your time with anyone else. You've got tons of friends. So why hang around with a loser like me? Ino stopped walking, turning to face him with a frown. Don't you dare call yourself that again. He blinked, startled by her sharp tone. You're not a loser, Naruto. You're the most stubborn, hard-working, frustrating idiot I've ever met, but you're also brave and kind in ways most people don't see. You think your worth is tied to someone else's attention, but it's not. You're worth more than you realize. Naruto stared at her, his throat tightening. For so long, he had wanted to hear those words. To be seen, truly seen. And Ino, of all people, was the one telling him. Thanks, Ino, he whispered. His voice was shaky, but his smile was real. Ino softened, reaching out to adjust his messy hair before pulling her hand back quickly, flustered. Don't make me repeat it. Just remember it. The bond between them grew stronger after every small moment. Whether it was eating together, training, or simply walking through the village, Naruto began to notice how much lighter his days felt with her around. The heaviness in his chest still existed, but it no longer consumed him. And Ino found herself thinking of him more often than she wanted to admit. His smile, his determination, even his stupid jokes, they all lingered in her mind long after she returned home. One evening, while brushing her hair before bed, she caught herself smiling at the thought of him. She paused, staring at her reflection in the mirror, her heart beating faster. Am I really falling for him? She whispered to herself. The answer was clear, even if she wasn't ready to say it aloud. Their connection was tested again during another mission, a patrol outside the village. The night was quiet, the forest filled with the sounds of crickets and rustling leaves. Naruto walked slightly ahead, scanning the area, while Ino followed closely. Suddenly, a rustle in the bushes made him tense. A wild boar burst out, startling them both. Naruto leapt in front instinctively, shielding Ino even though the animal was harmless. Once it ran off, Ino let out a laugh. You do realize it was just a boar, right? Not some enemy ninja. Naruto scratched his cheek sheepishly. Hey, well, better safe than sorry. She shook her head, still smiling. Idiot. But, thanks. Naruto looked at her, the sincerity in her voice making his heart skip a beat. For a moment, he didn't feel like the boy chasing after someone who never wanted him. He felt like someone who mattered, someone who was cared for. That night, as they sat by the campfire, Naruto glanced at her across the flames. She was humming softly, lost in thought. He wanted to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he thought to himself, maybe this is what I've been needing all along. Not someone to chase after, but someone who chooses to stay. 9:28, 4:51 p.m, Vivavat, the sun had long set, leaving Konoha wrapped in a quiet, silver glow of moonlight. The streets were mostly empty, save for the occasional patrolling shinobi. Naruto walked alongside Ino, both of them carrying the exhaustion of a long day's training and small mission duties. But despite their tiredness, neither wanted to return home just yet. The night felt too alive, too gentle, to waste indoors. They found themselves at the hill overlooking the village. From here, the lanterns in the streets below flickered like tiny stars mirrored on earth, and the distant sounds of laughter and chatter carried softly through the air. Naruto sank to sit on the grass, leaning back on his hands. Ino followed, sitting a little closer than usual. For a long while, neither spoke. Naruto's mind drifted back over the past weeks, the heartbreak that had once consumed him, the emptiness he had carried, the countless nights of wondering if anyone would ever truly see him. And now, here she was. Ino, with her sharp words, her teasing, her care, her patience. She had become the constant in his life, the voice in the silence, the warmth in the cold. Finally, he exhaled, soft and slow. I don't feel as heavy as I used to. Ino tilted her head, curious. Naruto looked at her, moonlight catching the gold strands of her hair. I don't feel as heavy. Like, the pain isn't eating me up anymore. I still remember it, I still hurt sometimes. But, it's bearable now. And that's because of you. Ino felt her chest tighten. Her heart had been whispering this truth for weeks, and now he was saying it aloud without even realizing what it meant. She looked down, pretending to tie her shoelace, though her hands were trembling slightly. You've changed a lot, Naruto, she said softly. You used to try to carry the whole world alone. Now, you're letting someone in. That's brave, more than anyone realizes. Naruto chuckled faintly, scratching the back of his neck. I guess, I just finally realized someone actually cares. Someone who doesn't just see me as the loud, annoying guy, but as me. All of me. Ino's lips parted slightly, her heart beating faster. She didn't speak immediately. She wanted to say something that might reveal the truth of her feelings, but she held back. Instead, she nudged him gently. Come on, sit back and relax. You've earned it after today. Naruto smiled, leaning back, letting the night's gentle breeze play across his face. For the first time in weeks, he felt a calm settle over him. He was still healing. His heart wasn't fully whole, but it no longer ached with the sharpness of loss. And somehow, he knew that with Ino by his side, it would heal completely in time. They stayed on that hill, talking softly about nothing in particular. The sound of the village below, the wind through the trees, the distant calls of nocturnal animals, it all became a lullaby. For Naruto, this was peace. And for Ino, it was a moment she wanted to freeze in time forever. When the first stars blinked awake in the sky, Naruto turned slightly toward her, brushing a strand of hair from his face. Ino, thanks for everything. I don't know what I'd have done without you these past weeks. Quote, her lips curved into the faintest smile, eyes soft. You don't need to thank me. I've enjoyed seeing you laugh again. Seeing you alive, not weighed down by the past. For a moment, silence fell between them again. But it wasn't awkward. It was heavy with unspoken words, with feelings that neither dared to name aloud. Naruto felt it, the strange flutter in his chest when she smiled at him, when her hand brushed his, when her voice carried that soft authority that made him listen without question. Ino felt it too, the warmth creeping into her heart whenever he laughed at her teasing, whenever he looked at her like she was the only person who mattered. She knew she was falling, deeply, irrevocably. But she also knew that rushing, confessing, forcing things to happen, it wasn't the way this story would unfold. Instead, she settled next to him, the faint glow of the moonlight washing over them. We'll figure it out, she whispered more to herself than to him. Naruto tilted his head, catching the words but not fully understanding them. He smiled faintly. Yeah, we will. And in that moment, it didn't matter that the future was uncertain. It didn't matter that hearts were still healing and feelings were unspoken. What mattered was the here and now. Two people, side by side, silently promising to be there for each other. Two hearts slowly mending, slowly growing, slowly learning to trust again. As the night deepened, they eventually rose, walking back to the village side by side. Their shadows stretched long behind them, merging and separating with each step. The air was cool, carrying the scent of flowers from the outskirts of the village. Naruto glanced at her once, a small, grateful smile tugging at his lips. Ino looked at him, her heart skipping as she caught his gaze. For both of them, the journey had just begun. The hill, the village, the stars, they all bore witness to the start of something fragile, yet undeniable. Something that would take time, patience, and courage. But for now, it was enough that they were together. And that was how part 1 of their story ended, not with confessions, not with grand declarations, but with quiet understanding, steady companionship, and the slow, unwavering birth of feelings that neither of them could ignore forever. If you enjoy this fanfic, then please like and subscribe my channel Narutofix11 for more fanfic. Thank you.